do that. And I can send it to you when we're done. Once I get it transferred into a YouTube link, I can definitely do that. Okay, so I know, Arena, you and I have met before, but for those of you who don't know, my name is Jessica, and I'm an agent development specialist with Appulate. So I'm going to be your go-to contact. I'm your dedicated account manager. So if you guys ever need help with a submission or you get stuck on something, please feel free to reach out to me. Arena, feel free to share my information with them all. The structure of the call today, we'll start with the setup of Appulate, and then we'll get into the workflow of how to process the submission from start to finish. And then at the end, I'll show you where some additional training and resources are for you. If you have any questions or need clarification on anything, please feel free to stop me and we'll get you taken care of. So we're first going to go to appulate.com/sign-in. Everyone's username will always be their email address. If you ever need to reset your password, just click on this forgot password link and you can reset it from right here. Does everyone have logins?
So sorry.
That's okay. If you don't have a login, let me know and I can take care of that afterwards. So when you manually sign into Appulate via the website, you're going to be taken to your Appulate dashboard. As you start to work on your insureds, that's when they'll start to populate. So you guys are my first training of the morning. That's why you don't see anybody. But as you start to work on your insureds, that's when you'll start to see them in this dashboard. The very first thing that you want to do is to download Appulate Uplink. Uplink is a simple print driver that allows you to bridge over your record forms into Appulate. Therefore, it's eliminating the need to rekey any of the data you include on your record forms into the Appulate system. Uplink complements any agency management system. And with that said, if you don't have an agency management system or a completed Accord form, you can always start directly within Appulate using this Add New Customer or Prospect button. So to locate Uplink, we're going to go up to this blue dashboard up here, and under Tools, you'll choose Appulate Uplink. And then you'll click on this Download Uplink Driver button. It takes about a minute to install, but once it's installed, Uplink will show up as a printer driver option for you. So next is WebLink. To download WebLink, we're going to go back up to that blue dashboard under Tools and choose the last one, Appulate WebLink. WebLink is a browser-specific extension that allows you to bridge over duplicate data from Appulate to carrier portals that a WebLink connection's been developed for. To download WebLink, you'll just click on this Get Extension button. This one only takes about 10 seconds to install, but once it's installed, it'll be ready to bridge over duplicate data from Appulate to WebLink carriers. And because this is a browser-specific extension, if you use multiple browsers to quote, you'll need to download the extension on those multiple browsers. So you can see I'm in Chrome right now, but if you use Chrome and Edge or maybe Firefox, just make sure you download those on those multiple extensions. The only browser it's not compatible with is Safari. So Uplink is taking duplicate data from the Accord forms into Appulate, kind of creating your insurance profile. WebLink is taking duplicate data from Appulate to WebLink carriers, kind of starting your submission with those carriers. Any questions on those two things? Perfect. I will take silence as a no. So next I'm going to review markets with you guys, and we're first going to review the selected market list. So we're going to go back up to that blue dashboard, and under markets, click on selected. You want to think of selected markets as your agency's private library of markets. So this really should be a list of markets that your agency represents or is currently appointed with.
Hey,
Once you're ready to add, yeah.
I'm so sorry, Jessica. I want to interrupt you up here. I do have the emails to the underwriters that we work with. And if you could please, whenever you're done, maybe with this training, if you could please go over the way to add the market up there, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, is there a specific, like, is the market in the system, just the underwriter?
It is in the system, yes. And I just wanted to add, as a part of the training, that like the underwriters that we work at, as we mentioned before, we work with Jim Wilson and we work with the CRC that like have to add them up here, how to set them as preferred market.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely show you how to add the underwriter when we get to the email submission, definitely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So once you're ready to add markets to this list, we're going to go back up to that blue dashboard under markets, click on available. You want to think of available markets as the public library of markets. So as you can see, there are several thousand items in here. So I highly recommend searching who you might be looking for. So I'm going to search for travelers today. Once you're ready to add that market, you'll go all the way to the right-hand side and click on this little plus button. And that just moves them from the public library into your agency's private library. So once your markets have been added, the last piece of setup is adding credential information for markets that require it. So to manage your passwords, go in the upper right-hand corner and click on your name. And down at the bottom is this market login section. This is where you can input your username, your password, and if applicable, a producer code. The login type will automatically default to use shared login. So if your entire agency uses the same login for that portal, you don't need to change anything. If you have your own personal login, just drop this down and change it to use my login. I also like to tell people whenever you update your password with carriers, usually it's 60 to 90 days, just make sure you come back into Appulate as well and update your password. That way you don't run into any issues when you're trying to do a submission. And then you'll click save. And that's the last piece of setup. Do you guys have any questions before we start getting into the workflow?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to start with my Accord form, but I always like to ask people before I open up my Accord form to not focus on the line of business I'm using for my example, but how I'm processing the submission instead. I say that because regardless of the line of business that you're working on, the workflow in Appulate will be identical. So I'm going to do a work comp submission today, but the workflow wouldn't change if you've been doing a business auto, a BOP, a package, whatever you're working on, it'll look exactly the same. It may require more information than the work comp does, but the workflow will be the same. So Uplink is a tool that we're going to start with, and there's two ways to utilize Uplink. First, you'll open up your Accord form wherever you keep it. Mine's on my desktop. Yours might be in your agency management system. You'll open it up, click your print button, and then you want to make sure your printer destination reads Appulate Uplink. Once it shows Appulate Uplink, you'll click print, and a pop-up will show up asking you to validate your Appulate credentials. The second way to utilize Uplink is a popular shortcut. You simply just right-click on those Accord forms and choose Uplink from the drop-down menu. And then that pop-up appears asking you to validate your credentials. Some people like shortcuts. Some people don't like shortcuts until they have an understanding of the process and the system. So Uplink is really just how you feel comfortable using. Once your credentials are confirmed, your workstation is going to open Appulate and ask you to confirm the desired line of business you want to work on. Excuse me. This occurs if the Accord form you're using is applicable to more than one line of business. So if I actually drop this down, we just updated our system actually. So the system recognizes the 130 and recommends these lines of business, but maybe you're not looking to do any of those recommended insurance that we give you. You have access to everything. So if it's not recommended under here, it's open to everything. I'm going to work on work comp today, and I'm going to click continue. And then I'm taken to the Smart Q&A section. Any questions on how I got to this spot?
No, we're fine.
Okay. So before I start a submission, I just want to review a few things with you guys. First is this Master Insured tab right here. This was automatically created based off of the information you provided on the Accord form. The tab will not change unless you change or add additional information to it. There's also a contact section in here. So you see Nicole here because I included her as a contact on my Accord form, so she automatically populated. But if you forget to put your contacts or you need to add additional contacts, just go to the right-hand side and you can add them right here. This big tab right here, this is your submission tab. It's currently labeled with the line of business that you're working on, the effective date, and the current status of your submission. If you ever need to change the effective date because something happens, whatever the case may be, just click on the date and you can type it in or use the calendar tool, whichever you prefer. If the date is changed, all currently existing forms and any newly added forms will automatically update with the new effective date. So you won't have to go back to those original accords that you uplinked and change the date yourself. Appulate will do it for you. I also like to add a contact to the main record to begin with. So we're going to go to the right-hand side and click on this no main contact verbiage. And then we're just going to add them in case we need to email them, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to review the form section with you guys. So there's our Accord for 130, but as premium users, you have access to our available forms. So the 125 will automatically populate if you don't uplink an Accord 125. So that's there for you. But maybe you know you might need to add additional Accord forms, so you'll click on available forms. And once you click, the list shown will be those that apply or could apply to the line of business that you're working on. So if you know you need your 133, you'll just check this box and it's added for you. So now I'm going to talk about supplementals, and supplemental forms are added to your submission based off of two factors. The first is the line of business that you're working on, and the second are the markets that you've selected. So we're going to add our markets by clicking on this little plus sign right here. And then you want to add the markets you want to submit your risk to. I also like to take a minute to talk about this open brokerage market section. You can submit and get a quote back from any of these open brokerage markets you see right here without having an appointment. So if you're ever curious to what their pricing or product is like, or maybe you're having a difficult time finding a placement for somebody, definitely check this section out. It is based off of the line of business you're quoting and the location of your insured. So I like to tell people state fund first is California only. So if you were literally quoting anywhere besides California, this wouldn't be an option for you. So now that my markets have been added, all supplemental forms that apply to my desired markets and my line of business have been added. All of the data for my original Accord 130 has been dispersed to all of the supplemental forms you see here. If you work with a market and you know there's supplemental forms attached to that market, but they're not in the Appulate system, please email me those forms and I can get them into the queue to be added. We just need agents to work with us and kind of share those forms. And there's a good chance they might already be in the queue. So if you don't see a supplemental form and you know that there is one that this market requires, just email them over to me. So I'm just going to open up this supplemental really quick. You can see that it's fairly complete based off of the bridge data for my Accord 130 and saving me some time by not having to fill this out manually. If you ever need to edit any of these forms, over to the right-hand side are these edit buttons. You just click which one you want to edit. This is the line-by-line option. Most agents prefer to see the form itself. So just go up here and change it to inline. And that takes you to the form. Anywhere you see a pencil is where you can edit information. Anything you edit on this one. So I will show you guys, I'm just inputting my limits. I didn't previously include the limits on my Accord forms, but this will also go over to the Accord form to fill out as well. So my limits will populate. So I don't have to go back to my Accord 130 and input those limits. So over to the right-hand side, also by the edit button are these three little dots. These are additional options. You have options to send via email, via fax, sign forms or request signatures from your insured, or send a questionnaire to your insured to complete. You also have the option to send multiple forms to your insured to complete by going back into the Smart Q&A section on the upper left-hand corner. And towards the right-hand side is the Send Q&A button. If you click on that, this option allows you to select exactly what you want your insured to answer specifically. So if you have some information for your insured, but you need them to fill in the blanks, this is a great way to save some time. So instead of compiling an email with 5 different questions that you need your insured to answer, sending that off for them to answer, you getting that email back and you having to go into the system and answer those questions, this is a great way to save some time. So maybe I just want the required unanswered questions only. You'll click OK. I need an email address. And you'll click Save, and your email will automatically generate for you. Just a quick side note, Just make sure you configure your email server because this will allow Appulate to send the email out directly as you instead of on behalf of you, as well as put a copy of the email in your email server's outbox. So I just like to touch note on that really quick. So once you click send on this email, your insured will send a link via email. Your insured will click this mobile-friendly link they see right here and complete the questions that are presented to them in a clear and clean Q&A view. Once the questions have been completed, you'll receive an email notification that your insured updated a questionnaire. And when you log back into Appulate, you'll see that all of the data that your insured provided has automatically populated back into the Appulate platform for you. So again, instead of you compiling an email of 5 questions, your insured answering those, getting those answers back to you, and you having to manually input that information, this is a great way to send them questions that you need answered. They answer them, and they automatically will populate into the system for you. Any questions before we start working on the first submission?
No, please continue.
Okay. So the first market we're going to look at today is Westlake, GA. And Westlake, GA has this little clover image next to their name. And this represents an Appulate style submission. Appulate style submission markets allow you to complete the entire rate, quote, and bind process for that market entirely within Appulate. You'll see some markets will have a lightning bolt next to their name, and this represents a live API for that market, which means you have an opportunity to receive an instant bindable quote from that market as long as the submission doesn't need to be referred back to underwriting. Appulate style submission can be both direct carriers as well as MGAs or brokers. The only difference of workflow is direct carriers do not have submarket lists, while MGAs or brokers may have submarkets for you. Using Westlake GA as our example, we're being shown what markets they can approach on our behalf. We also have the power to select and deselect from this submarket list. So essentially, we're telling our MGA or broker exactly what markets we want them to approach for us. So for today, I'm going to choose AmTrust and Encino. Once your submarkets are selected, I'm going to go over to the middle of the screen and review these colorful letter indicators with you. These letter indicators can provide you with valuable information specific to your submission. So for example, if I hover over this red D that stands for decline, the market is providing us with the declination reason in this yellow box right here. So on this one, the FEIN is already in the system. And that's just because I use this FEIN for every single training I do. So it's declining it. But if this were a true declination, you as an agent might choose to stop right here because most agents don't try to submit on something that they're already blocked on, depending on the case. But in this case, I just need to give the system an acceptable FEIN. So I'm going to click on this right here. And because the link is live and dynamic, the system takes the guesswork out of where a question is located and highlights it in the red box for me. So I don't need to go through these tabs searching for these little tiny FEIN letters. It takes me straight to it. So I'm just going to move a few numbers around. Okay, so now that I edited the FEIN, our letter indicator has updated in real time, changing from a red D for decline to an orange A for pending acceptance. And if I hover over this again, I can continue answering the mandatory questions by the market. Once you answer a question, it does get taken off of this links list. So in this section, I like to show people there's a couple different ways that you can answer questions. You can, of course, continue going through this links list. It takes you straight to it. Or if you notice in this tab at the top, there's a red number. That's the amount of questions in this section that's required to answer. They're also indicated with a red asterisk. So I tend to find myself just kind of staying in this section. If you go through all of these questions and you know that the answer is no, there's a shortcut to the right-hand side. You can mark them all no at one time. I'm just going to go through these and answer any questions that are mandatory. Any questions for me while I'm going through this?
Jessica, there is one more girl. She's trying to join us. I don't know if you have to let her in or she's already in.
Yeah, I did let her in.
To me that she, oh, you did. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
I was sure.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, so last thing I need to just add my insured. I'm gonna add Nicole. You do have to assign a contact role for the insured. So maybe she's the owner of the business, but maybe she also takes care of billing. This person, if they have multiple roles in the company, they can have as many roles as needed right here. And then you just have to give them a phone number. Okay, so now that now that I've answered all of the missing and required questions, I'm gonna go back up and you can see all of my letter indicators are now all green. Green is good. It's what you strive for every time you do a submission, because once they're all green, it's going to allow me to go to the right-hand side and click on the submit button, and then it's off to the underwriter. I will tell you guys, I'm in a testing environment, so my side is slower than you'll see on the production side. So I apologize, just bear with me while it loads. Okay. So since our API for AmTrust is live in Appulate, I was actually able to receive an instant bindable quote from them, while the other submarket Encino will need to have a quote uploaded by the underwriter. But when the underwriter uploads a quote on their end, you'll receive an email notification letting you know that the quote is in the Appulate system for you. I don't know if you guys work with AmTrust or have in the past. I just like to open this up to show people. This is the exact same AmTrust format that you would receive from an underwriter or on their website. So just know that the quoting format in Appulate does not change from what you are normally used to. So you, of course, want to review the quote as you normally would and then send it off to your insured. If you get to the point where you're ready to bind, then we're going to go to the right-hand side and refer to this request to bind button. Ours is currently orange because it's letting us know that we have binding requirements we have to take care of first. So if I hover over this again, I need to get my Accord 130 signed and I need to upload loss runs. I'm going to start with the Accord form. So I'm going to go to the left-hand side, click on the Forms tab. In line with my Accord 130, all the way to the right-hand side, click those three little dots and select Sign. You would assign yourself as the agency representative, or if you're a CSR or account manager and you want the producer to sign, you'll drop this down. And anybody in your office that has a login will populate on this list. And then your applicant would be your insured. I'm going to deselect the insured for today, and you'll click OK. Once you click OK, the form will then auto-populate for you to sign. And if you had an insured, it sends them a mobile-friendly link via email. Once your insured clicks the signature link, they're going to be taken through the exact same signature process I'm going to show you right now after it's done loading. So to start signing, we're going to click on this jumping green arrow, which takes you to the bottom of the Accord form to this orange box to click on. You'll type in your name, choose a fancy font if you want, or save an insert. And then there's another jumping green arrow to finalize this. And then you have to check this box to agree to the terms and conditions of your signature and click sign. Once yourself as the producer or your insured signs a form, those signatures auto-populate onto the form for you. All signatures obtained in Appulate are legal and binding in court, and an audit trail of all signatures will generate for you. So if you ever want to download that signed form or the audit trail, we'll just go back to the Accord 130, drop this down, and to the right-hand side is the signed document in the audit trail. Any questions on signed forms? Okay. So now that I took care of the required signatures, I'm going to proceed with loss runs. I'm going to go to the left-hand side, click on the loss runs tab. And you see Agora West right here, and that's because I included prior carrier information on my Accord form. So when I originally uplinked those into the system, that automatically populated into the system for me. If you don't fill out prior carrier information on your Accord forms, or you need to change some things up, you'll just click on this Edit Insurance History, and you can change whatever you need right here. So I do have demo loss runs I'll upload for the submission, but I want to talk you through our Loss Runner tool because you guys have access to it as premium clients. Loss Runner essentially allows you as the agent to request loss runs on behalf of your insured or a new business prospect in a few different ways depending on the insured situation. So to launch Loss Runner, after you input your insurance history, to the right-hand side is a Send Loss Runner button. I'm going to click on that. And the request type will automatically default to letter of authorization. And that's because this is the most commonly used request type in the system. And this one does require an insured signature. But what a letter of authorization is, it's a letter from the insured directly to the carrier, giving the carrier permission to return loss runs to you as the agent. So if this were a new business prospect and you're having a difficult time getting loss runs from their current agent to try and market their account for them, this is a great way to bypass that agent and go straight to the market to request loss runs. If you drop this down, we also have a broker of record letter, agency loss run request letter, and insured loss run request letter, but I'm going to talk you through letter of authorization. So starting at the top, Appulate will populate your insured's information, followed by the market that you're requesting loss runs from, including an editable destination. So if you click on this and drop this down, Appulate does our best to have the accurate information for loss run requests, for fax number and email addresses, but if those change, the markets don't always tell us. So just make sure that the fax number or the email address that's in the system is accurate. If it's not, you can add them right here. It's followed by the insured's policy number and the policy period for that market. And then it concludes with the body of the letter itself, which will provide the market with a return destination, being yourself as the agent. And then finally, your insured's information down below. You want to make sure that you check this box to follow up on this. So if in 10 days you don't have loss runs back from the market after a signed document is sent out to them, Appulate will send another signed letter out to the market for you. You'll click send, and then you'll click OK. Since this needs the insured signature, it'll send them a mobile-friendly link to sign. Once signed, the signed request, including the audit trail that proves the validity of the digital signature provided, is sent to the market destination that you confirmed earlier in the letter. Appulate will track and timestamp all actions related to Loss Runner, with the exception of when loss runs are returned to you by the market. So you're going to get those loss runs back as you normally would, probably through email. When you get those back, you'll come back into Appulate, go to the right-hand side in line with that carrier. You'll click these three little dots. We're going to upload our loss runs. And this will also timestamp who uploaded the loss runs and when. Any questions on Loss Runner?
Would you please go over the way we request and the way the ladder looks like for the insured? Because there is a bottom on that loss run ladder that we have to do manually. Like the lower bottom, we have to always add the company contact and change their email.
Okay, let me go back. Send Loss Runner.
Like this.
Okay, so
right
what
here, the contact. Like if you go down right here, this one is always red on our end. So we have to generate this one manually. Like
okay, so a great way to bypass that. Yep, a great way to bypass that is to add them up here to the main contact. So usually it'll say no main contact. You'll click on that and you can add them to the record right here so you don't have that in red.
Okay.
So I will, hold on. Let's go to no main contact. I'll show you. Send Loss Runner. That's why it says no contacts can be found. And there they are. Was that the only thing you're running into issues with?
It was not an issue. It's just, even if there was a company contact in there, it was not a primary contact. Maybe that's the reason.
Okay.
Right here, when they started.
So you had a contact in here probably, but
we
not to this main record.
Right, that was not the main contact. I think that was the issue.
Okay. Yes, sometimes it definitely won't populate if they're not listed right here. Any other questions on Loss Runner? That was a great question. Okay, So let me just upload those again. So now that I uploaded the loss runs, that was the final binding requirement. So if we wanted to bind that AmTrust quote, we would just go back up and click on this request to bind button, and then it's sent off to the underwriter to bind. I know it's a lot of information. That was the Appulate style submission workflow. Do you have any questions before we move on and review e-submission?
On our end, that's not going to be an option to bind, because we do everything manually, and we do like with the transportation underwriting. It has to be e-submitted, then underwriter review, and then the binder.
Okay, yeah, so most of the carriers I'm assuming you will work with are not Appulate style submission?
That's correct.
Okay, yep, because we partnered with some that everything's done in the system, but now I'm going to show you e-submission, which it sounds like that's who you typically work with mostly. So e-submission markets is this globe with a paper scroll in front of it, and they're still partners of Appulate, just like Appulate style submission markets are. The difference is e-submission markets have carrier portals that they still want you to continue using, and that's absolutely fine. Appulate will bridge over duplicate data housed in the system to that carrier portal for you. So to initiate an e-submission, Arrowhead is our example. We're going to go all the way to the right-hand side and click on this green submit button. The system will then update your submission status to submission initiated, and a new button will show up that says finish submission. We're going to click on this button, and the system will open the carrier portal and populate all duplicate data from Appulate to the carrier portal for you. You want to make sure you review your submission and answer any questions that weren't duplicate in Appulate. So you'll see some questions that aren't answered in here, and that's either because it's not filled out in Appulate or it's not a question that Appulate asks. So just make sure that you fill out any unanswered questions. You'll continue clicking through your screens and allowing Appulate to turbocharge your submission by populating duplicate data in real time. You're still going to obtain your quote as you're normally accustomed to, whether it's through email or downloading directly on their website. However, once you obtain a quote outside of Appulate, you want to make sure that you bring it back into the system. So to do so, we're going to go back into Appulate. Arrowhead is still our example, so we're going to go all the way to the right-hand side, click these three little buttons right here, upload our quote. Irina, do you guys use IPFS for finance agreements by chance?
I am so sorry. Would you please repeat? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Do you guys use IPFS for finance agreements?
Yes, we do.
You do. Okay. So we have actually partnered with IPFS to help with billing in the Appulate system. So instead of having to go into the IPFS system to create a finance agreement, we have partnered with them. So I will show you this really quick. So anytime you upload a quote in our system, this pop-up is going to show up as a quote markup. So we're going to do agency bill, and you just break out your taxes and fees as you normally would in their system. It's just easier to do in our system. You'll save the changes. And then if you want to actually create a finance agreement, you'll click on this bill insured via IPFS. Hold on, let me get my credentials really quick. Sorry. I can find them. I'll also send you a link on this because I cannot find my credentials right now. But once your credentials are in here, it's going to let you edit it, and then it's going to let you either send it off to your insured to sign first, and then you sign it, or you can sign it before your insured signs it. But this is a great way. It kind of it'll create your finance agreement. That way you don't have to go to the IPFS portal. I will send you a link that has the information after this login page. Sorry, I can't find my credentials right now. Okay, so if you end up binding this quote directly with Arrowhead, you'll bring that quote into the system like we have right here. And then you'll click these three dots right here. And then you want to mark it as bound. The reason why you want to do this is because this action ensures that your reports are accurate, as well as preparing the system for next year's renewal. So Appulate can actually kickstart your renewal process by bringing forward all the information for your insured from the year before and populating it into the new term. But to do this, you have to upload the quote, and market is bound if you do in fact bind with that market directly. Any questions on e-submission?
No, continue, please.
Okay. So next is WebLink, and WebLink submission style is this more colorful globe you see next to builders. And it's very similar to e-submission. What makes them different is e-submission markets are considered in-network and WebLink markets are considered out of network, but the actual submission process is going to look extremely similar because they're both bridging duplicate data from Appulate to the carrier portal for you. So for WebLink, builders is our example this time. We're going to go all the way to the right-hand side and click on this green submit button. But instead of clicking on finish submission like we did with e-submission, the system will open up the carrier window and you'll see the system start to run through the motions of auto-filling data. I'm not clicking on anything, by the way, it's just running kind of like a video. But once it pauses, that's when you can start to fill out any additional data that wasn't duplicate. So again, if it's something that has to be answered, it's either not filled out in Appulate or not a question that Appulate asks. WebLink will continue to autofill data in real time as you click from one screen to the next. You're going to go through your submission and obtain your quote from the carrier as you normally would. Again, on WebLink, you want to make sure that you bring it back into the Appulate system. So we're going to go back into Appulate, click on those three dots, upload our quote, finance it if you need to. If you don't need to, just escape this. And if you end up binding that quote with that market, you're going to mark it as bound if you do in fact bind with that market. So again, for the same reasons as e-submission, accurate reports as well as kickstarting the renewal process for next year. So e-submission and WebLink, extremely similar. There's really just, besides the look of them, there's really just one extra step on e-submission by clicking on that finish submission button. Any questions on WebLink? Okay, so the last one is email submission, and that is this little envelope right here. To start an email submission, and Irina, this is, we'll get into the underwriting contacts. So you're gonna go to the right-hand side and add your underwriter first. So you'll click on select, and then you'll, if they're not in this drop-down menu, you'll add them right here. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, we have the same.
We've seen those on our screen.
What was that?
We have seen this on the screen, but I have not, I mean, I haven't been over this. Like I tried on my, as we spoke with you, like together, I did everything by myself, but I was not able to train anyone. So I decided that would be better if you go over all the stuff and we just learn right away from you.
Okay, yeah, so if it's an email submission, you'll just go into this contact column and you'll click on select. We do have underwriters in our system saved already. If you don't see them from that drop-down menu, you'll just click add new and you can add them and they'll save for future submissions. And your underwriter will not change regardless of your use of Appulate. So whoever you work with now is who you're going to continue working with. So now that my underwriter's been added, I'm going to go and click on this green submit button. And then my email submission will automatically generate for me. Again, just make sure you configure your mail server before you send out any emails. You'll proceed to fill out your submission as you normally would. And if your submission is within the acceptable time frame of that market, you're going to click on submit. Now I'm getting into my absolute favorite feature in Appulate. I was an account manager for 8 years, so I know how crucial it is to save some time on submissions. So let's say you're marketing an account to 3 different markets and you have 2 of the 3 submissions done, but you're outside of the time frame. Maybe you're 2 weeks early on this email submission to a certain market. Well, in 2 weeks, you really don't want to have to revisit this account. You want to just move on to your next account. So what you can actually do in Appulate, you can actually schedule an email submission to be sent out at a specific date and time. my favorite feature in this system. So to schedule an email submission, you'll click on this little clock right here, and this will give you your location's current date and time. So I'm going to click on the calendar tool. I'm going to schedule this in 2 weeks. So October 29th, I'm going to change it to 12:01 a.m. Insurance Magic Hour to block the market that morning. You'll click done, and you'll click OK. Once you click OK, the system will schedule that email, and the status for that market will be changed to scheduled. You see right there. Another place I like to show people, if you click on this activity tab right here, not only is this a timestamped log of everything you've done so far regarding your submission, you can see that the last activity is the scheduling of my email. So when I get into the office on October 29th, let's say I get into the office at 8 o'clock in the morning, I log into Appulate, there's going to be a new line activity in here from 12:01 a.m. That's the sending of my email submission to ACE. So it's a great way to just schedule emails, get them out so you don't have to revisit this account in a couple of weeks or however far you in advance you schedule it. It's a great way to just save some time. Any questions on email submission? Okay. I also like to tell people if you have an agency management system, this log is also exportable via this export to Excel feature. So if you want to just cover your bases and have everything you've done so far on your submission, export it to Excel and you can put it in your AMS system. And with that, the workflow portion of the training is done. Do you guys have any questions on the workflow before I show you where some resources are for you? Okay, so all of the resources and yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
I think like we will go over the video once again, and we will review everything. We will try this on practice, see how it goes. And then I prefer to schedule one more training at least 2 weeks from today, just so we could go all stuff again to see if we have to catch on something.
Yeah, that we can definitely schedule another training in a couple of weeks. I can give you my calendar link again, or just follow up with you in 2 weeks to see.
You could just send us your calendar, and we will pick whatever's available for all of us.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that.
In that case, we will have
when
a schedule. We will see what we will have the list of questions. We will see who got what and who has to pick what. Because right
when
and I feel like there is more there is no question because there's no practice. Yeah,
exactly. It takes some dipping your feet in the water to kind of really get into the system, and that's when you're going to have questions. I know it's a ton of information I'm throwing at you, so that's a great plan. I will send you my calendar link when I send you the recorded video. It should be later this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so some training resources for you guys if you get stuck or need something is in this help tab right here. So this first one is Help Center. It provides searchable written article-based learning. So if you want to read more about Loss Runner, you can read all about it in this section. Oops, sorry. Got click happy, sorry about that. You can read all about it and it'll tell you how to utilize Loss Runner. The next one is Quick Start. This will take you to a page that breaks it out step by step on how to do certain things. So if you forget how to add your markets or your credentials, come in here and it breaks it out step by step and tells you how to do it. The next one is video tutorials, probably my favorite section in this help tab. These are previously recorded training videos. They're anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes long, but they're short YouTube clips on how to do certain things. So if you forget how to download Uplink or WebLink, or you forget how to do a submission style, come in this section. I like to tell people most workstations, not all, but most workstations now have 2 computer screens on your workstation. So you can have this YouTube video up on one side and your Appulate system up on the other side, kind of following along with the YouTube video. The next one is webinars. So I host premium webinars every Tuesday. So if you guys, before training, want to see the system again, sign up for a Tuesday training. There's no cost. You can just sit back, watch, and listen to exactly kind of what I went over today. And the last option, if you click on the logo in the upper left-hand corner, down in the bottom right-hand corner, these two little bubbles right here, this is a live chat option with our support team. They're super knowledgeable. I talk to them every week about different things. So if you get stuck, you can use this option as well. Of course, you can email me as well. And if I have the time, I will definitely jump on the phone with you and try and figure out what's going on with you guys. So that's the Appulate system for you. Any questions? I know it's a lot of information. I know you guys need to get in there and look through the system, but any questions so far?
Going back to the prior, the submission part, you showed us that you generate all the fields with the Accord 1 Tory. Is that the only form that the system would read, or will it read different forms as well?
So it really depends on the market. So if it's an Appulate style market, they're going to tell you everything they need in our system. So I know if you're probably doing a BOP, you're going to need your 125, your 126, and your 140. It really just depends on the market and what their requirements are.
But it does read from different forms as well. If like we use it 124.5, it will read from 125.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, I thank you guys for your time. I know everyone's super busy. It's hard to take an hour out of your day to do something like this. So thank you very much. Irina, I will email you the recorded video later this afternoon when it's transferred to a YouTube link for you. And I will give you my calendar link as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much for explaining everything to us.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a great day and a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.